Today it's Fizzman, the narrator, the MC of this video, back on screen again to give you a good time. More specifically, the third video on the series time called Project Progress. It's been a while since I last posted my video because, well, I just settled down in Brunei and finally done with school, done with uni, maybe. And yeah, it's time to continue this series. We're here to delve in this idea which I introduced just now called Project Progress, aka Pro Squared. It's about how you can maximize your progress on anything you intend on doing in the minimum amount of time with efficiency. Interested? Stick around to find out. So, background. Sometime in January, I went on a trip to Amsterdam with a couple of good friends. And on one occasion, we went to one of the Van Gogh museum. Only there did I realize that Van Gogh started his career as a painter of the potato eaters. The potato eaters are the ones that are responsible for growing and harvesting the crops over in the Netherlands fields, aka the farmers. So, yes, those are what you call the potato eaters. A sight commonly found along the countryside of Netherlands. It's, accessible, you would say, but this was the subject of Van Gogh's painting. This was the inspiration of the young artist, and he had constantly painted these farmers along with the field to polish his skills. At one point, to make further progress and improve his art, Van Gogh moved to Paris, where he had more inspirational exposure, I would say, and was able to learn more by having colleagues of the same interest. Over time, he became so good that a lot of artists followed in his footsteps in terms of the techniques and stroking methods he used, etc., etc. Point is, he became so big that there has been several museums erected to commemorate his artworks, particularly in Amsterdam, where I was at. Now, this was just one ordinary guy who became a renowned artist from just painting potato eaters. Amazing. Many of the well-known individuals, even scientists, that discovered a handful yet big and significant information with regards to what's in the universe only lived around 200 to 300 years back, such as Albert Einstein, who discovered the theory of relativity, Stephen Hawking. In terms of art, there's Vincent Van Gogh, which I just mentioned, Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk. These are the current big people, I'd say, trying to make big changes to the world. With that in mind, it shows that there's a lot more to discover that could even improve for the world's benefit. Meaning, maybe you could get the same opportunity that these people have, to have your own name written down in history in a good manner. All you gotta do is to be committed on an activity and make progress on it. Let's break it down. So when a moment in life occurs that would be represented by an incident, could be something like an experience or a problem. Experiences being something like growing pubic hair, first crush or love. And problems meaning math problem, relationship problem, life problem, any form of incident. The next natural state of action is to be able to overcome it through one way or another and get a solution or an outcome from it. In a generalized sense, these would be the methods into being able to get a solution. The first one is explore. If it's a new problem faced, usually you would come up with a new method and use it, whether it's something you've picked up or learned or something you've invented yourself. Could be something like a spontaneous answer. Number 2 is revise. Revise meaning that you improve on the previous method used for a better outcome. The third one is recycle. Recycle means that you would reuse the method used before if the problem is one that you've experienced before, or even if a previously used method is applicable to an entirely different problem, you could use it. Meaning you find the mechanics of one thing and you apply it to another thing. Because if it works, right? Then the next time you encounter a problem, the cycle repeats. So an incident, method, you get a solution. Repeat that. Incident, method, solution. On the contrary, suppose the incident is too overwhelming that it prevents you from making progress. So then you would be placed under a situation represented by this new block called the stuck block. The name itself is self-explanatory. This occurs when people push away their problems or avoid it to not deal with it. Something like an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. Well, eventually you will have to deal with it, right? From there would be two scenarios. Positive outcome is that in due time you will be able to overcome the incident and carry on from there. Or the negative outcome is that suppose the event is too great that it even causes you to break down. Common phrases used to express this is, oh, I've hit the rock bottom, or I can't do it anymore, or it's just too much to handle. Those are, I would say, the symptoms. Again, two scenarios would branch out from here. The first one is the same, where over time you'd realize that it's time to face the music and get a solution out of it. Or the final negative outcome is that you'd simply give up. These three new blocks are represented by what I call the black box. Why? Because it's something you'd consider to be what I'd say the dark times. Moments where you just want to forget about it because it was that bad of an experience. And the former blocks, stated earlier, is categorized under the smooth box, where everything's going smooth and easy. So that there is the general flowchart on how things work in life. You get some sort of incident, event, you do something, you get your outcome. So here comes the series of questions, starting with, what's the point of the flowchart? And how does it relate to progress? Well, you see, for you to be able to make progress efficiently, you'd want most of your time to be placed in situations within the smooth box and less time within the black box. Because the longer you're stuck spending your time having a breakdown or crying, the more time you spend doing nothing. How do you know if it's good progress or not? Well, if you're a civilized person, you would be aware of laws. Laws. So why do these laws exist? Simply put, it's to ensure that everything goes well by setting regulations and limitations to avoid and reduce conflicts from happening. You give punishments to thieves or, people who break laws, so that's why it happens. This is where we would have the implementation of karma into our flowchart. Because whatever goes around comes back around, right? You pull off a prank on a person, most likely that person will plan on doing something, so expect a revenge in return. When you do good instead, same thing, you'd expect good to come back to you in one form or another. Therefore, by putting this karma information in, you would be able to categorize the actions between good and bad and think about the consequences regarding those actions and filter out the ones that are not worth doing. Easy. Question number 2. How would you know which method to use or to overcome something with ease? To be honest, how you're going to deal with something is entirely up to you and the creativity of your brain. But here are some points that can allow you to improve the decisions you make and ultimately the experience that you're gonna get. Number 1 is you learn the history, meaning to prevent repeating the same mistake, it's best to be aware of what has happened in the past under the scenario you're in, or having learned the history of non-related event and applying the knowledge learned from it into a new situation. Same thing like what I've mentioned before. Find the mechanics of one thing and apply it to another. Number 2, avoid reinventing the wheel, meaning if an efficient method already exists, Google it, learn about it, use it, improve it if you can, rather than having to think up of a method that could potentially be imperfect. Number 3 is that avoid juggling between one problem and another. Multitasking sounds ideally efficient, but it's actually not, because by having too much in mind to do, you have the risk of forgetting certain things that was needed to be done, or maybe you would be doing it imperfectly due to lack of concentration or commitment. So it's best to deal with one thing at a time, solve it, and move on to the next thing. To summarize, project progress is something of a tool to let you know where you stand in a situation and to aid in what to do to be able to advance further, rather than to just be static and clueless or lost. That's about it. Shout out to Tim, a good friend of mine who has given me a few music samples exclusively made in Kazakhstan to use in these videos. I really do appreciate it. I'll provide his links down below in the description if you want to check him out. And if you think that this has been helpful, please like the video, unlike if you don't, share it if you must, and subscribe if you want to be updated with the latest videos from me. Next video will be the last under the series time, which is about volume and time equivalence. What's that, you may ask? Well, you'll find out. Fizz out, man.